Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. They wait for the perfect moment. But here is the uncomfortable truth: the perfect moment does not exist. Life rewards action, not intention. Dreams stay dreams until you force your body to move even when your mind is full of excuses. Action is not a feeling, it is a decision. You will never feel fully prepared before you start. Confidence is not something you discover first. It is something you earn after you move. Every successful person you admire once acted while they were afraid, uncertain, and imperfect. They did not wait for motivation, they forced discipline. And discipline is what turns ordinary people into unstoppable ones. Waiting feels responsible, but it is often just fear wearing a logical disguise. People convince themselves that they are being patient, strategic, or cautious, when in reality they are avoiding discomfort. They tell themselves they will start when they have more time, more money, more confidence, or more support. But life does not pause to meet those conditions. While they wait, opportunities quietly pass, energy fades, and ambition slowly weakens. The idea of a perfect moment is an illusion created by the mind to delay action. Conditions will never be flawless. There will always be uncertainty, risks, and something missing. Successful people understand this and move anyway. Average lives are built by hesitation, by endless preparation, and by choosing safety over growth. Extraordinary lives are built by those who act in imperfect conditions and figure things out along the way. When you wait, you allow doubt to grow stronger. The longer you delay, the heavier the task feels. What could have been a simple first step turns into a massive mental burden. Time does not make fear disappear, it magnifies it. Meanwhile, others who were no more talented than you move forward simply because they refuse to wait for permission or perfection. Waiting also sends a dangerous message to your subconscious that your dreams are optional. Each delay trains your mind to prioritize comfort over purpose. Slowly, your standards drop. You begin to accept less than what you once wanted, not because you lack ability, but because you waited too long to act on it. The truth is, progress only begins when you decide that now is good enough. Not perfect, not ideal, just now. The moment you stop waiting and start moving, your life separates from the average. Most people believe they must feel ready before they act. They wait for confidence to appear, for motivation to rise, or for fear to disappear. But feelings are unstable. They change with mood, energy, weather, and circumstances. If your progress depends on how you feel, your life will always move in short bursts, followed by long periods of stagnation. Successful people understand a hard truth: feelings are unreliable, but decisions are powerful. Action begins the moment you decide, not the moment you feel inspired. A decision is a command you give yourself. It does not ask for permission from fear, laziness, or doubt. When you decide to act, you shift control from emotion to intention. You stop being a victim of your inner state and start becoming the leader of your behavior. Your mind will often say, "I don't feel like it today," or "I'm not in the right headspace." But those thoughts are not signals to stop. They are tests of discipline. Growth demands that you move even when your emotions resist. Every time you act despite not feeling ready, you strengthen your ability to follow through under pressure. Feelings follow action, not the other way around. Motivation is often the result of progress, not the cause of it. When you take action, even small action, your brain begins to cooperate. Confidence builds because you kept your word to yourself. Momentum grows because you prove that emotions do not control you. When action becomes a decision, excuses lose their power. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" You ask, "What must be done?" That shift alone separates disciplined individuals from those who remain stuck. Many people believe confidence is something you must possess before you begin. They think once they feel strong enough, skilled enough, or fearless enough, and then they will act. This belief keeps them stuck for years. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is a reward for action taken despite uncertainty. No one starts confident. Everyone once unsure, confidence is built through proof. The mind gains belief only after it sees evidence. Action creates that evidence. Each time you take a step forward, no matter how small, you show yourself that you are capable of handling discomfort, mistakes, and challenges. That proof accumulates and confidence grows naturally as a result. Without action, there is no evidence, and without evidence, confidence cannot exist. Waiting to feel confident is like waiting to feel strong before going to the gym. Strength is developed by lifting weight, not by imagining it. In the same way, confidence is developed by doing difficult things, not by thinking about doing them. You gain confidence by showing up when you are nervous, by speaking even when your voice shakes, and by trying even when success is not guaranteed. Action also reframes fear. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable after you face it. The first step is always the hardest because it breaks the illusion that fear is permanent. Once you move, fear shrinks and belief expands. You begin to trust yourself not because everything went perfectly, but because you survived and learned. And true confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the knowledge that you can act in spite of it. And that knowledge can only be earned through action. One of the biggest lies people believe is that motivation comes first. They wait to feel inspired, energized, or emotionally charged before they begin. But motivation is not a magical force that arrives on its own. It is a response. It shows up after you start moving. When you sit still and wait, motivation stays silent. When you take action, even reluctantly, motivation begins to wake up. Movement sends a signal to the brain that something important is happening. It shifts you from passive thinking into active engagement. The moment you begin writing the first line, making the first call, taking the first step, your energy changes. What felt heavy starts to feel manageable. What felt overwhelming starts to break into smaller pieces. People who rely on motivation struggle with consistency. They work only on days they feel good, which leads to long gaps of inaction. But people who rely on movement build discipline. They act whether they feel ready or not, and motivation catches up along the way. This is why disciplined individuals often appear more motivated. They are not waiting for motivation. They are creating it through action. Even minimal movement can unlock momentum. You do not need to do everything at once. One small action can change your emotional state. Action creates progress, progress creates satisfaction, and satisfaction fuels motivation. This cycle only begins when you move first. If you want motivation, stop waiting for it. Start doing something, anything that pushes you forward. Motion is the spark that ignites motivation. Fear feels strongest before you act. It grows in your mind while you imagine worst-case scenarios, judgment, failure, or embarrassment. As long as you stay still, fear controls the story. It exaggerates risks and convinces you that danger is greater than it truly is. But fear thrives on hesitation. The moment you move, its grip begins to weaken. Taking the first step breaks the illusion that fear is in charge. Action shifts you from imagination to reality. What once felt terrifying often turns out to be manageable. You realize that fear was not a warning of destruction, but a signal of growth. By acting, you confront fear with experience, and experience always speaks louder than anxiety. Fear also feeds on the unknown. When you do nothing, everything feels uncertain and threatening. But action brings clarity. You start learning what works and what doesn't. Each step forward replaces vague fear with specific information, and specific information is far less frightening than imagined disaster. Every time you take action despite fear, you train your nervous system to calm itself under pressure. You prove to yourself that fear is not a stop sign, it is a doorway. The first step may be uncomfortable, but it is also empowering. It shifts your identity from someone who avoids fear to someone who moves through it. Fear never completely disappears, but its control does. Once you act, fear becomes background noise instead of a command. Comfort feels harmless, even deserved. It feels like safety, stability, and peace. But comfort has a hidden cost. When you stay in the same routines, the same habits, and the same thinking patterns for too long, ambition begins to fade. Growth requires challenge, and comfort removes the need to stretch, struggle, or improve. The comfort zone is where dreams are postponed and potential is wasted quietly. Nothing dramatic happens there, no failure, no disaster, but that is the danger. You slowly accept less than what you are capable of. You stop pushing your limits because nothing forces you to. Over time, what once inspired you becomes something you barely think about. Comfort also dulls urgency. When life feels manageable, you convince yourself there's always time. Tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year. The longer you stay comfortable, the harder it becomes to leave. Your tolerance for discomfort decreases, making even small challenges feel overwhelming. Growth demands friction. It demands effort, uncertainty, and moments where you feel stretched beyond what feels easy. Every meaningful improvement in your life, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, comes from stepping into discomfort. When you avoid it, you also avoid progress. Comfort zones do not collapse your life instantly. They erode it slowly. Ambition doesn't die in chaos. It dies in convenience. Motivation is unpredictable. Some days it shows up strong, and other days it disappears without warning. If your progress depends on motivation, your results will always be inconsistent. Discipline, on the other hand, does not depend on mood, energy, or emotion. It operates on commitment. It shows up whether you feel excited or exhausted. Discipline is the ability to act according to your decisions, not your feelings. It is what keeps you moving on days when motivation is low and excuses are loud. While motivation makes you want to work, discipline makes you do the work. That difference is what separates those who start from those who finish. Relying on motivation puts you in a reactive position. You wait for the right emotional state before taking action. Discipline puts you in control. You set a standard for yourself and follow it regardless of how you feel. Over time, this consistency compounds into results that motivation alone can never achieve. Discipline also builds self-trust. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen your belief in yourself. That self-trust becomes a powerful force. You no longer need external inspiration because you know you can rely on your own structure and habits. Motivation may spark the beginning, but discipline carries you through the process. When the excitement fades, overthinking feels productive, but it is often just motion without progress. The mind runs in circles, replaying possibilities, risks, and imagined outcomes. Instead of bringing answers, excessive thinking creates doubt, hesitation, and mental exhaustion. The more you think without acting, the more confused you become. Clarity does not come from sitting still and analyzing every angle. It comes from engagement. Action places you in real situations where feedback is immediate and real. You learn what works and what doesn't by doing, not by guessing. Each step forward cuts through uncertainty and replaces it with understanding. Overthinking magnifies problems before they even exist. It turns small obstacles into massive barriers. Action shrinks them. Once you move, you realize many of the things you feared were either manageable or irrelevant. Reality is usually far less intimidating than imagination. Action also organizes your thoughts. When you act, priorities become clear. You stop worrying about everything at once and focus on what matters now. Confusion fades because movement forces decision, and decision creates direction. If you want clarity, stop thinking about what might happen and start discovering what actually happens through action. Big plans feel impressive. They make you feel ambitious and serious about change, but plans alone do nothing. Without action, even the greatest ideas remain fantasies. Small actions, though they may seem insignificant, carry real power when they are taken consistently over time. Consistency turns simple efforts into meaningful results. A small step taken daily builds momentum, skill, and confidence. It lowers resistance and makes progress sustainable. While big plans often collapse under pressure, small actions fit into real life and survive distractions, setbacks, and low energy days. Big plans often fail because they rely on perfect conditions. They demand high motivation and flawless execution. Small actions demand far less. They ask only for commitment. When you focus on what you can do today, you remove overwhelm and make progress inevitable. Consistency also shapes identity. When you act regularly, you begin to see yourself differently. You become someone who shows up, someone who follows through. That shift in identity is more powerful than any single dramatic effort. 1,000 tiny steps in the right direction will always outperform one grand idea left untouched. Many people believe that careful planning or long preparation will create momentum. They spend weeks, months, or even years perfecting strategies, waiting for the right time to start. But momentum is not born in thought. It is born in motion. Action, even imperfect action, generates the energy that propels you forward. Without it, even the most detailed plan remains stagnant. Momentum works like a snowball. The first push is the hardest, but once it starts rolling, it gains size, speed, and force. That initial movement is always the result of deliberate action, not of thinking, worrying, or planning. Waiting for perfect conditions only delays the snowball from forming, leaving your potential trapped in place. When you take action, no matter how small, momentum begins to feed on itself. Each completed task fuels the next, ideas become clearer, and confidence grows. Suddenly, the obstacles that seemed insurmountable while you were planning appear manageable because you are already moving forward. Planning alone can create analysis paralysis. You can spend so much time perfecting a roadmap that you never take the first step. Action breaks that paralysis. Movement generates feedback, creates opportunities, and inspires creativity. Momentum is the engine of progress, and action is the spark that lights it. Once momentum starts, it becomes self-sustaining. Energy, confidence, and results compound, making subsequent actions easier and more impactful. Without movement, momentum is impossible, and no matter how brilliant your plan may be, the human mind is wired to avoid pain and discomfort. It is designed to protect you, but often it misinterprets growth as a threat. Whenever you try to step out of your comfort zone, your mind raises alarms. This is risky. You're not ready. Stay where it's safe. This resistance is not a sign that you shouldn't act. It's a sign that you must act. A change is uncomfortable because it challenges existing habits, beliefs, and routines. Your brain prefers the familiar because familiarity feels safe. Even if it keeps you stuck, resistance feels strong because the mind is defending its comfort, not your potential. Growth, progress, and success often require discomfort, the very thing your mind is trying to avoid. Every step you take against resistance weakens its grip. The first few attempts feel like a struggle, but with each action, your mind learns that discomfort does not equal danger. You train it to cooperate with your vision rather than fight it. Resistance is not permanent. It diminishes with repeated action and consistent effort. Understanding this principle shifts your perspective. Instead of viewing hesitation or fear as a reason to stop, you see it as evidence that you are moving in the right direction. Your mind will always prefer comfort over success if left unchecked. Acting despite this resistance is how you build courage, resilience, and unstoppable momentum. True transformation begins when you recognize that the resistance is part of the process. It is not your enemy. It is the signal that you are stepping toward growth, and each act of defiance strengthens your capacity to achieve more. Remember, this action is the bridge between dreams and reality. You cannot think, plan, or wait your way to success. You can only move your way there. Every great accomplishment in history started with someone deciding to act despite fear, doubt, and uncertainty. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They created them through movement, consistency, and discipline. The power to change your life is in your hands, but it requires courage. Courage to start when you don't feel ready. Courage to face fear and resistance. Courage to choose discipline over comfort and action over excuses. Each small step you take today compounds into progress, momentum, and unstoppable confidence tomorrow. Do not wait for motivation to find you. Do not wait for the perfect moment to arrive. Force yourself to act. Take that first step, then the next and the next. With every action, you are rewriting your story, building your strength, and proving to yourself that nothing, not fear, not doubt, not comfort can stop you when you commit to moving forward. Your future self will thank you for the steps you take today. Start now. Take action and watch as your life transforms in ways you once thought impossible.